You mentioned earlier data processing. So you have a lot of student athletes. What data are you collecting, if any? How are you doing that? What are you doing with it?
A lot of data collecting and data processing that I do is really, it's got to be able to be test retest.
Hmm.
So how are we progressing? What are our big rocks? When I got to Archer Kell, I was just like, oh, we're going to be running APRE systems. Like I'm going to do all these strength tests, and then I quickly realized like when I got 60 athletes in a
Yeah.
room and I got 10 racks and there's one of me and my sport coaches aren't going to necessarily hold it to the same grade or
Hmm.
whatever, and their kids aren't going to hold it to the same grade for each other. So I had to literally be like, okay, this probably isn't going to be valid. So it was going to be crap. It was going to be time consuming. APRE, teaching a kid to get to a 1 rep max or a 3 rep max or like all these different strength tests probably wasn't going to be very beneficial
Hmm.
and wasn't going to be efficient in the long run for me. Um, so I really need like bang for your buck, unarguable, not arguable data. So a lot of the data that I track now is I have a laser timing system that I do like I'll do a
Oh,
5 yard
awesome.
build in flying 10 and then a 20
Hmm.
yard build in flying 10 that I test pretty consistently. I'll have like my baseball guys run 30s. But really I'm like I need to be able to flow. If I can't put the quick run setting on my laser timers, then it's probably not going to be efficient to me.
Hmm.
Um, Jump mat readings, I think, is important. I eventually want to get to a point where I have a little bit better of an RSI kind of
Hmm.
tester because I think RSI and we can head down the speed route here shortly, but I
Looking
think it's
forward to
important
it.
to
Yeah.
me. And then I just placed an order for, I don't know if you know Exerjo, which is an isometric reader.
No,
And
no.
we're gonna move into an isometric mid thigh pull. I think I know Cody Hughes has one down in Alabama. Mark Hoover
Hmm.
has one down in South Carolina. But it's just like a 10-second basically build your own platform, like you screw it into wood, and it's going to be a 10-second isometric mid thigh pull. And I'm just going to test really force production because it's a lot
Perfect.
easier to do a 10-second isometric mid thigh pull than get an APRE 3
Hmm.
squat across the longevity of 4 weeks. If it
Yeah.
takes 10 seconds for me to do it and I can do it every single week, that's probably going to be more beneficial to my program
Hmm.
by the end of it.
It's funny. I'm using APRE with my college hockey players who I've been with for years and years. 24 of them, plus an assistant, plus 2 interns, and a college student worker. And I have Team Builder, and it's still difficult to run APRE. I can't fathom in a high school where it might be a 1 to 85, coach to athlete ratio. So I get it, right? Like the books, the presentations, they all sound great, but what's actually practical that we could do with it? So real quick, you mentioned a laser timer. Which one are you using, and does that go to a cloud, or are you having athletes or a coach hand record times?
So I have the new Dasher Blue system,
Okay, perfect. Yep.
which I definitely suggest. I had the old Dasher system at my last stop, and now this is the new
Hmm.
Dasher system, which I think cleaned up like a lot of like the hard parts that we ran into.
Hmm.
Um, but really, like all of my testing, I need my sport coaches to be able to look at a screen,
Hmm.
see a number, and write down that number, whether
Perfect.
it's
Yep.
them writing it down or like they're like conveying that to somebody else.
Hmm.
For the most part, I'll usually run the Dasher stuff or like uh, some of my sport coaches can get it, but like I always worry about it becoming disconnected. But the Dasher Blue system has cleaned that up really
Awesome.
well,
Good.
because you can literally click to reconnect and you don't have to move and you don't have to turn the laser on and off in order to
Hmm.
get there. Um, so really, it's the sport coaches carrying out the testing. if it's something like a broad jump, which I'll do with some of our sports, like I want that to be me consistently. I
Hmm.
may not be the one writing down the number, but I'm the one reading the number. But like, it's hard to mess up a jump, Matt. It's
Yeah.
relatively hard to mess up a dasher timing system. And once I teach these coaches this new Exergo technology, like it's going to be hard to mess that up too, because it's
Yeah.
literally just click and start, telling them what to do, and click and stop. If
Hmm.
you don't think that sport coaches can't do that, you're probably selling your sport coaches really, really short,
Yeah.
especially if
Yeah.
they're invested in the strength and conditioning performance program. I always talk about, I even gave a presentation on it last year at our state clinic for NHSSCA. I talked about like my whole like realm of rehab assessment and everything else, but one of the slides that I talked about was high performance model installation.
Hmm.
But at the high school level, like you're the sports scientist, you're the strength
Yeah.
coach, you may be the rehab person, you may be the psychologist. Um, so for us, I always say that my school has a high performance culture.
Hmm.
We have kids that care enough to be like, what does my GPS unit say?
Hmm.
What was my top speed at practice yesterday? What
Awesome.
did what did Sally get on the jump mat? Oh, I'm gonna
Hmm.
go jump higher than her. Um, so we've created enough competition, we've created enough care about the data because we're exposing our kids to technology, and that's what high schools want us to do now is
Oh
expose kids
yeah.
to technology.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that in a strength and conditioning group. Um, but yeah, like leaning on the sport coaches, I'll have my interns run it when I have
Yeah.
enough of them. But I also like I need to coach the strength and conditioning side. I don't necessarily need to coach. I don't need to coach laser timers
Hmm.
because it's going to tell me what's happening
Yeah. No,
once
that's
I go
perfect.
back and look at the data.
Yeah, we also use